Hey, everybody. We are live at the Paste Studios in New York right now with the pop-ups. Guys, Jacob, Jason, thank you for coming back. It's great to see you again.
Great to be here.
Really excited.
Yeah, dude, last time there were dinosaurs, there were lab coats, there were sine waves, there were telescopes, there's all sorts of stuff going on, and an equal amount of creativity is happening here. So congratulations is due to you guys because the new Audible original Jukebox Joyride is out in the world. And congratulations, extra congratulations. It's been the #3 best-selling audiobook on all of Audible for the last 2 weeks, according to the New York Times. So well done, everybody. Woohoo! Yeah, and so we're going to hear a reading. You guys are going to do a reading from the first chapter of it, and let's dive right into it.
Sure thing. All right. George Callahan wiped the sweat from his brow, tightened the handkerchief behind his head, and lifted up his eyes to look out at the gigantic crowd. The only sound he could hear was his heart beating as the sea of faces stared back at him so silently you could hear a pin drop. You could feel the anticipation. At last, George raised both of his arms to the sky, and the mass of people let out a deafening roar, a wall of sound almost pushing him backwards. The crowd was in the palm of his hand. George's drummer dropped a beat, and he felt the wooden body of his guitar vibrating in his hands like a wild animal begging to be let free. One of the girls in front of the crowd screamed, "I love you, George!" as he lifted up his hand to play. George brought down his guitar pick, and the first massive notes of their biggest hit began to ring out when George woke with a gasp, cast out of the dream by his blaring alarm clock. He reached across the bed to hit snooze, lay back, closed his eyes. He was not George Callahan, the rock star. He was George Callahan, the 11-year-old kid, living a normal, boring life. He looked out the window at the gray morning and lazily flicked on the radio. I'm Jason Rabinowitz.
And I'm Jacob Stein of the Pop-Ups. And this is Jukebox Joyride.
George thought the song on the radio sounded familiar, like an old doo-wop song his Uncle Bob would have told him about. He stretched, turned on the light next to his bed, and gazed at his messy room. Could have been a kid's bedroom in the year 1974. Concert posters hung on wood-paneled walls. Music memorabilia was displayed everywhere. A drumstick that may or may not have been played by Ringo Starr of the Beatles. An entire bowl of guitar picks rescued from the sticky floors of countless concerts. And sitting in a kind of shrine on his dresser, a shiny silver record player. George raised his eyebrows as a series of thumps and a muffled crash from behind the bathroom door broke his reverie. He got up and knocked softly on the door. "Jules?"
I'm okay. It's okay,
said a muffled voice. "Can I come in?" The voice spoke again. It sounded annoyed.
Why not? It's not like this joint has more than one bathroom.
George opened the door to see his twin sister Jules collecting toothbrushes from the floor, putting them back into a cup on the counter. They shared a bathroom with a door to Jules's room on the other side, which was wide open, showing her version of messy room from 1974.
I was practicing my rudiments with your toothbrush, and I kind of got carried away.
Jules, that's gross. My toothbrush?
It's okay. It fell bristles side up.
George picked up his red toothbrush from the floor and eyed it suspiciously. Of course, Jules would be practicing rudiments, the basic skills of playing a snare drum. His twin sister, Jules, was first and foremost a drummer. A passion that she perfected by constantly tapping with anything she happened to be holding. And if whatever that was taken away, she would drum with her hands. And if those were tied up, her feet. If anyone in any situation anywhere was wondering where that rhythmic noise was coming from, it was probably Jules. George frowned. Is that my Ramones t-shirt?
George, I won't get ketchup on it, I promise.
George opened his mouth to protest, but Jules had already sprinted through the bedroom door.
Thanks for the shirt.
She yelled as her Converse All-Stars disappeared down the hallway. George found his face in the mirror. Dark curly hair tumbled around his freckled cheeks. He picked up his thick-framed Buddy Holly glasses resting on the sink and put them on. He turned sideways, puffed up his chest. But no matter how hard he tried, George just ended up looking more like the orphan, Oliver Twist. Sighing, George walked into his room, and Slippers, the old black and gray tabby cat, jumped up on the bed to say good morning. I'm never going to see that t-shirt again, am I? Slippers blinked at him, unimpressed, and began to purr. George got dressed, headed downstairs, and caught up with Jules at the breakfast table. Her face was buried in an old rock and roll magazine, and their mom buttered toast at the counter. Sarah Callahan, a.k.a. Mom, had a kind face and a crooked, freckled nose. She placed a plate of slightly burnt toast in front of George and began going down her mental list of the day.
George, there's extra peanut butter sandwich in your lunch. And Jules, don't forget your orchestra dues. They're in an envelope in your backpack. Now, George, I can't drive you to soccer tonight because the car is still in the shop. Oh, the car. I forgot. I have to pick it up today. Oh, and I also forgot the exterminator is coming by on Wednesday.
Mom continued to rattle things off while the twins ate until George picked up his head.
Because Wednesday is my late night and...
Mom, soccer was last year. This year I'm in stage band. Also, I think your dress is on backwards.
Backwards,
said Jules. Mom froze, mid-buttering, and blushed. She barked out a quick laugh, shaking her head in disbelief, and said,
Thank you, guys.
And she sighed and sat down.
It's just been so hard since your Uncle Bob hasn't been around. Mom, you're doing great,
Jules offered.
Single parenting is crazy. We're practically 12 years old, and George was saying he wanted to even get a job, right, George?
George coughed up a piece of toast and hissed under his breath. What? Sarah rested a hand on each of their shoulders and looked at her children with soft eyes.
You guys are the best. You know, I'm a lucky mom to have such a lovely pair.
At that moment, black smoke pouring out of the toaster had set off the smoke alarm, interrupting Sarah, who shot up like a meerkat sniffing danger. She snatched Jules's magazine and started waving it frantically at the ceiling. George hastily opened a window while Jules rescued the solid brick of black toast and deadpanned,
Anyone want one? Well done.
It was moments like this that made George miss his Uncle Bob the most. Bob always had a calming effect on the family. Their Uncle Bob was an ethnomusicologist, which meant he studied music from cultures all over the world. What's that weird little flute the shepherds play in Azerbaijan? Uncle Bob could tell you. Though he was often abroad discovering some musical treasure, Bob was way more than just an uncle to the twins. He helped raise them ever since their father passed away when they were just babies. Their Uncle Bob was always there, nurturing, encouraging them. That is, until the day when he suddenly wasn't. Mom went to flip her dress around, and George took the opportunity to open his laptop. He clicked on his YouTube favorites button, and up popped the list of his 4 favorite videos. Guitar solos of the 70s. The world's fastest water slide. Best cat tricks, hilarious. And of course, the video. The video was entitled Pawn Wars Season 3 Unaired Episode. Footage was grainy and only from one camera. Pawn Wars was a reality show where grannies in thick glasses and dudes wearing cargo shorts bid on mysterious objects from storage lockers. Nobody knew what they were getting until after they bid, and the contestants hoped to find the most valuable treasures. This was the video that George came back to almost every single day. Why? Because this was the video where he watched his Uncle Bob disappear. If there was any explanation of Uncle Bob's mysterious disappearance, this video was their only clue. So Jules popped an earbud out of her brother's ear, wiped it on the Ramones shirt, and stuck it in her own. And, sitting side by side with his twin sister, George hit the spacebar, and the people on the screen flickered to life.
Welcome back to Pawn Wars. I'm with Bob Callahan, ethnomusicology professor at the University of Richmond, and he has just outbid the group and won a mysterious wooden crate we are about to open here on Pawn Wars. Professor Callahan?
Oh, please, call me Bob.
Alrighty, Bob. So what is an ethnomusicologist?
Well, you see, ethnomusicology is the study of the music of different cultures.
Oh, neat. So, Bob, what makes this dusty old wooden crate worth $1,300?
If it's what I think it is, $1,300 is a steal.
What do you think it is, Bob? Oh, looks like our guys have just about got the lock pried off there. There it goes. Well, Bob, we're about to find out what you just bought.
Swinging. Now, let's see. Just like I thought. It's a music box.
A music box? Hey, can we get the cameras on him?
This is quite a rarity, you see. You just wind the handle right here, just so.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah.
Where did he go? What, are you kidding me? Is this some kind of joke?
He was just standing.
No, I know, Rita, but Jim, cut the cameras. Cut the cameras, I said.
It made no sense. How did Uncle Bob disappear without a trace? Was it special effects? The host and crew seemed honestly confused. Like Bob had really just popped out of existence. Bob Callahan was the only father figure the twins had ever known, and he shared with him his tremendous love for music. Bob was the one who taught them how there couldn't be any hip-hop or electronic dance or salsa or country without the tribal drumming from West Africa. How every song you ever heard in your life was built from a million other songs, from a million other cultures in one long strand of musical DNA, like a giant family tree stretching out all over the world. And Bob was gone, without a trace. It just didn't make any sense. Sarah Callahan slammed the laptop shut with a loud click and a little too much force. George jumped back in surprise.
Finish getting ready for school now.
Her eyes darted briefly into each of their stunned faces.
I have to go to work.
She turned on her heel and strode out of the kitchen. George and Jules slowly looked at one another. Jules spoke.
George, man, you gotta learn to read the room. You know that video upsets Mom. Come on, let's go to school.
George thoughtfully slid his laptop back into his backpack and followed his sister outside. There had to be a clue somewhere, and he was gonna find it.
All right, Jason, Jacob, thank you. So that's chapter one
Chapter
of
one.
of Jukebox Joyride, and so ethnomusicologist Uncle Bob is now missing out there in some astral plane. Who knows?
He is
know where he
loose.
went.
His goose
Yeah.
is loose, man.
That's right. So this it'll be up to you guys. I don't want to reveal the entire story, but can you tell us a bit about what sort of adventure Jules and George and go through trying to figure out what is going on with Uncle Bob?
Well, George is really dedicated to figuring out what happened, and he drags Jules into looking, and they find some clues, and it turns out Bob left them some clues that allow them to begin their own time-traveling journey, and they start to follow him to places that he's traveled to through time.
Where he leaves them more clues, and they eventually catch up with him. And what happens is that Bob gets a hold of this time traveling device, which is this music box in this case, and he wants to see the best concerts in all of history.
And like all
Like
best,
any one of us would have done, like all of these amazing concerts documented behind us here. But anytime you go messing with time, you're opening Pandora's box, and he winds up creating trouble. And the kids actually have to help him fix it.
Well, so as the time travel starts, what are some of the what can we expect? What styles of music? What eras did we travel to throughout
they
the book?
travel back to like turn of the century New Orleans and hear like a second line parade.
The birth of hot jazz, like any good rock and roll story has to start in New Orleans around the turn of the century.
They hit like the Southwest. They hear field recordings from an old like
Medicine show.
Medicine Man show,
Yeah.
kind of,
Yeah.
and some old country music.
So actually, there's an Alan Lomax tape sitting in the other room from specifically what I forget, but definitely from the southeast somewhere. Like
We thought about
somebody's
making
porch.
Alan Lomax a character in this,
Yeah.
but we actually
instead-
wound up,
yeah.
making him somebody else instead.
No, we have a character named Sasha Gomez, and she's like a young, half Mexican,
She's a young-
like
Alan Lomax.
ethnomusicologist, and she's doing field recordings. And she was a super fun character to write. This like female protagonist from the 1930s out in adventuring. It was really cool.
So you wrote everything in this book as you were going through these various styles of music. Was there, did you already have bluegrass chops and New Orleans hot jazz chops and classical music chops when you traveled to Vienna? Like did all that already exist, or were you teaching yourself a lot of new stuff along the way?
I would say classical chops might be a bridge too far. But like in studying music, I studied like kind of my degree in music was like popular music. So that definitely leads through bluegrass and hot jazz. Not that I have those chops, but enough to. Studio chops are different than live chops, we'll say.
But it was also really fun
Yeah.
to get to write these songs in these different styles that we would never get to write.
Yeah.
And even some of them were fragments of songs, and that is kind of super liberating. You don't even have to figure out how to fix it. You can just start with the good idea and then fade out.
And there it is. Yeah, done.
So you guys have been this relationship, this collaborate, the pop-ups have been a thing for 10-ish years, for about 10 years. What's new, what's different about between this project and what you guys have been doing for the entirety of your career?
Well,
I mean, we've principally been a band. We release records. We've worked in television, writing stuff and working on projects. But this was the first chance we got to write like a 10-chapter story, like in a book format. And that was extremely exciting and an extremely challenging thing.
yeah. I definitely consider the pop-ups kind of like storytellers, and this was like the grandest story we've ever gotten to tell. But also the format of an audiobook is particularly well suited to our strengths, like...
We've got faces for audiobooks.
Yeah, we got face for audio. Yeah, no, like getting to really produce a world, like an auditory. We have a friend that has this amazing podcast called Wow in the World, and she calls it an auditory comic book, and I love that term. An auditory comic book.
I think she says cartoon.
An auditory cartoon? Yeah. But like, yeah,
And that you guys wrote the theme music to it, right? Wow in the World?
Yes,
we did, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, dude, it's fascinating to watch you bring the what you do in the audiobook to life live and cue these things live and get off the mic further and further away and yell. It's cool to see a bit behind the scenes. So we appreciate that you guys came by and did it.
Yeah, it's a pleasure.
This is really fun.
I'd be remiss in working with Audible was a pleasure because they really let us really have this story. No one micromanaged this story. They let us tell the story we wanted to tell and actually made it much better than we could have done on our own. So
Nice.
Yeah.
Good, man. I'm glad that happened for you and that you've used the platform to be one of the most popular audiobooks that's out there right now. That's awesome, dude. Congratulations to both of you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
And so speaking of Wow in the World, you've got the Wow in the World pop-up party happening at the Chicago Theater. That's in, I forget how many days. I don't know what day it is today, but I know on July 6th that is happening. So 5 days from now-ish. That seems right.
Very soon.
At the Chicago Theater. And then you're also taking the Wow in the World pop-up party to Denver at the Robert and Judy Newman Center at the University of Denver. That is happening on the following weekend. Yeah. And dude, and Lollapalooza as well. That's happening. You're playing August 3rd and 4th, so Chicago again. And then back in New York, the Hudson River Park, you've got shows on August 5th and on August 8th.
Free shows, New York. Come on down.
So congratulations on all of it, and thanks for coming by and weaving this tale, and best of continued luck on Jukebox Joyride. It's out in the world right now. You can find it on Audible. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks so much
for having us. Thanks
All right.
for watching.